Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Everyone's so on time. Excited.
We try.
Shall we go around and do introductions?
Sure.
Would you like to start?
Me?
Yeah.
My name is Mandy. I've mostly done work for the New York Health Act over the last few years, and I've been rather absent over the last 6 months to a year or so. And now that I have time, I'm trying to refocus myself.
Oh, awesome. And are you already on Twitter, or what's your Twitter experience like?
I started my Twitter in like 2011 for coupons.
Okay.
And have retweeted things in the past, and then in the last week or so have decided that Twitter's my new thing.
Okay.
To stay entertained.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like some idea of how it works.
Yeah, but not how like organizing or anything on it works.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mandy. And how did you first hear of the work I do? Or get on my
I met you in January at like some cafe with Morgan and Anna.
Right.
And Ellen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, it's good to meet you. I was just teaching a class with Anna last night at SUNY Old Westbury. So
that's awesome.
Fun for the worlds to connect. Hi, Lisa. Would you want to introduce yourself briefly? Oh, we can't hear you right now. So if that's...
Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
I was just saying I have 5 things going on, so I'm sorry if I seem a little discombobulated. I'm Lisa Taylor. I am a childbirth educator and birth doula in Astoria, Queens, and teaching virtual classes, of course, right now. And does that answer everything besides the Twitter question? Okay. And then I've been on Twitter for years, but I don't open it very much. I tend to retweet things more than I actually like compose tweets myself. I might like comment on what I'm retweeting, but yeah, I am definitely interested in learning how to effectively use it for advocacy.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here, Lisa.
Thank you.
And Kendall.
Hi, y'all. My name is Kendall. I'm the organizer at National Advocates for Pregnant Women, and I'm here because I just want to be doing all things that Katie's doing. I've gotten to use Twitter a little bit in the past, mostly to see what people are up to, but also to specifically reach out to representatives to ask them to come to some of my events, because it's a great way to get into their inbox. And then I also retweet Katie when she asks me to, and I see it on my phone and I remember to, and so whenever I happen to open, I'll be like, oh, there's a little call to action, do it. And I'm still very impressed because I sometimes look at that and I'm like, how old is this? Or like, when did this get here? Or like, is this even relevant? But I found that very helpful. And if I can help other people do that in a passive or active way, I think that would also be really helpful for organizing for my organization.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining me today. I'm hoping this is the 3rd time I'm teaching some kind of like how to use Twitter for activism class, and each time I'm learning more of how to teach using Twitter. And especially now that we're in like pandemic mode and everybody's locked down, I'm hoping Tuesday Twitter at 2 becomes like a regular thing that like from 2 to 2:30 can be for people who are like brand new to Twitter or who've never been to like who haven't heard the spiel I'm about to give all of you guys. And then from like 2:30 to 3 every week could be like a mini health action of, you know, you guys all know, so tune in at we'll know for future weeks, but like tune in at 2:30 and everybody will be on the Zoom and we can like focus on elevating particular issues on Twitter by just having everyone in the same space doing it at the same time. So let me share the screen with you and I'll go through the PowerPoint I made quickly-ish, and then we'll get on Twitter and start practicing. So let me do this screen share. And so on that note, I guess I'll say I'd love for you, essentially, like, as far as you guys are as far as my social media reach goes. So like, I met Mandy just from incidental organizing, and Lisa sees me on New York Metro Doula, but like pretty much everybody who's going to see my posts already sees my posts. So for these things to grow, I would love for you guys to share and recruit and say, oh, you haven't been on Twitter before? No worries. That's the whole point, is for people who are new. So, all right. So we are in the screen share. Let me pull up the PowerPoint. Okay. So all of you guys know how I got into activism work, with there just being there are massive racial disparities in New York City. I was working at a hospital that really only served Black people, and that provided really terrible care. And very little of what I was able to do within the hospital, as far as advocating, made much of a difference. And so, but who knows what would have happened if I had started tweeting when I worked there, but the stress of that idea was too much for me. So I left my job, and Twitter has been like the main form of or like the main stage on which I've been able to have some success advocating for the hospital where I worked. The kind of like, we all have lots of reasons to panic about what is happening in New York right now. So I thought I'd give you like a couple of reasons to feel slightly optimistic, which is that just like recent news, and some of these slides are going to be outdated, but we vote on the New York budget is supposed to be voted on and passed at the beginning of April. And I think now, like, a part of the problem is everything I'm about to say is like, I think this is what happened, because a part of the problem is that how the budget is passed is very opaque and difficult to follow. And even for people who like, this is all I've been paying attention to for the past week is the New York State budget, I still don't know exactly what went down and how it went down and who voted for what. That said, going into like, as a part of the budget that was proposed and voted on, and I believe that passed, was $2.4 billion of Medicaid cuts, 400 million of which will come directly out of the public hospitals in New York City, the ones that are so beleaguered with trying to deal with the pandemic. So like, the reality is very bleak, because not only is because essentially the one politician who's getting credit for handling this crisis well, what people don't understand is that while Cuomo's having these briefings and is doing a better job, is putting full sentences together, unlike other of our leaders in this country, he's simultaneously taking money away from the exact institutions that he's expecting to deal with the crisis. Okay, lots of reasons to feel pessimistic. Reasons to feel optimistic is that New York is the 12th largest economy in the world, and we have over 100 billionaires in the state and over 44,000 multimillionaires in the state. So the budget that Cuomo tried to push through with all of these massive cuts were essentially so that these rich people can stay this rich, because he didn't want to increase revenue. He framed it like there is no more money in the state, so I guess we'll have to cut things from the budget, when obviously there's a shit ton of money in the state. We just need to have the political will to go out and tax it and get it and put it to use where it should be in use. So the glimmers of optimism is that like, we have the resources, just not the political will, and you all being like, and the political will is something that we can create it's something that we can create, and during this time of pandemic, it's something that we can create on Twitter. Other glimmers of optimism is that our governor I don't attend another teach-in to hear me get into the nitty gritty of Governor Cuomo, but we have the majority in the state Senate and in the state assembly right now. So like we have all like the building blocks of what we would need to pass progressive legislation. Again, if we are engaged, if there is the political will, which is something that we create on Twitter. And the most exciting thing is that, like, if you weren't a single payer advocate before, you should be now, because we see so clearly how we are only as healthy as the most vulnerable in our society. And while on a federal level, Medicare for all is still not a politically viable, it's not politically viable because of who's in the legislature right now. It is politically viable in New York, and we're only one vote away from passing the New York Health Act. So especially like for me, thinking as a New York health justice policy advocate, like the Medicaid fight has been lost. Like the Medicaid fight we lost a couple of days ago when that budget went through with all of the cuts. But we have this golden opportunity essentially in the next 2 months to get the New York Health Act passed, because it won't matter that there were cuts to Medicaid if there is no more Medicaid in New York. That, like, if everyone's on the same insurance, it won't matter that the actions that he just took. So how are we going to get all of that done? We're going to do it through Twitter. Even before there was a pandemic, Twitter was a great platform for activism, because especially like at the state level, most state senators and assembly people have between a couple hundred to a couple of thousand followers, which means so, and just to like understand how Twitter works, like if Kendall tweets something like, I'm at a class with @Brooklyn Grows right now, and tweets it out into the world, I get a notification because my handle @Brooklyn Grows was in her tweet, right? So if I tweet at a particular assembly person, like, please pass the New York Health Act, they get a notification on their phone that says someone's tweeted at you and asked you to pass. Like, doesn't say that, it just shows someone's tweeted at you, and then it shows the tweet so that they can read that you've asked them to pass the New York Health Act. So for a lot of senators and assembly people, like, if you tweet at them that day, you may be the only person who tweeted at them that day. And so like the only message they get is to pass the New York Health Act. Cool. And essentially, like, there are legislators who for weeks and months I was calling to try and get a meeting with, and then I tweeted at them and it got retweeted. Not like if I just tweet at them and it's just me, nothing, but I tweeted at them and then a bunch of other people retweeted me within a day or two, and then I got a call then they called me and said, hi, we hear you've been wanting to schedule a meeting with us, we're free next Tuesday, how are you? So Twitter is the distinct advantage to Twitter is that it gives you access to people with power. Gives you direct access to people with power, and especially at the New York State level, it's essentially just gives you a direct line to who is representing you or particular legislators. Some legislators operate their social media accounts themselves. Other people, but even if it's someone on their staff who's operating their social media account, I don't think there are any legislators that have more than 6 or 7 people on their staff in all of New York. So whoever's running their Twitter, if they get 5 tweets about whoever's running their Twitter is somebody who's in frequent contact with the legislator themselves and is going to be giving them updates. So if it's just me and it's oh, well, the same nurse who's been tweeting at us for a year has tweeted at us again to pass the New York Health Act. No, they're probably not even bringing it up anymore when I'm tweeting at them. But if people who identify as constituents, or if I tweet at them to pass the New York Health Act and it gets retweeted 20 times, that for sure is going to get incorporated in the brief report the legislator gets, because that's all that, because that's the majority of what has been going on their Twitter for that day. There are like a handful of legislators who have like 30,000 or 40,000 followers, who are slightly more difficult to get in touch with, but actually stick with me, because most of the legislators that have big Twitter presences at this point follow me, and I can DM them. So this still works. It still works if you stay at it long enough, and even the big wigs will recognize, oh, this is somebody who's participating in New York State policy. Maybe I should follow them. So the first thing that I would normally do during this time is have people look up their representatives, but I think everyone knows. I know I worked with Lisa to get in touch with Senator Ramos. Kendall, you're with Senator Kavanaugh, and are you a Felder?
Felder.
Okay, Mandy, just some like fun Felder specific updates. I was talking with nurses at Maimonides yesterday, and they were talking about like putting together some protests and direct action, but like their issue isn't with Maimonides, it's just the overall lack of government response. So I was like, well, why don't we protest outside of Felder's office? And they were like, yes, let's do that. So just to know, we'll be in touch later, but let's work on getting like an actual physical protest to get Felder's vote for the New York Health Act. So all y'all know who your people are, so great, we can skip that. But what I say is like, definitely like for sure be following all of your reps on all of the social media platforms that both of you are on, and sign up also for their newsletter, so you're in the loop. It's like creating a good relationship with your legislator means thanking them when they do something good and letting them know when they are missing the mark. So like Ramos and Kavanaugh, tons of things to be thanking them for. Ramos was one of only 5 senators who voted no on the budget with all of those cuts. I like just everybody's all of you seem highly motivated to become more involved in activism. So I would say like challenge yourself to like almost once a week communicate with them on one issue or another. My senator is Senator Montgomery, who is not on social media, and she's retiring this year. And the 2 people who are like running for her seat are my assembly member, Tremaine Wright, and Jabari Brisport. So like you won't see me tweeting at Montgomery much, because I have essentially just like, I'm not actively trying to build a relationship with somebody who's retiring. But you'll see like at least once a week, I'm tweeting to Tremaine Wright, either saying, thank you for supporting this bill, or can we get this support on your bill? Is it working? Who knows? But for sure, everyone in Tremaine Wright's office right now knows who I am. And like, we're starting to build that name recognition. And then I made just side note or side note or tangent. If you go on the like New York State Senate.gov and you go to your legislators page and look under this tab legislation, you can see like all of the current bills that your person has written or is sponsoring, and that's a great way to just like see what they're working on. Probably the best way to get your senator to like you is if you are like, if you've like come in having already helped them or are helping them with the issues that are important to them. So if they are, if Senator Ramos is working on a bill and that you're excited about, and you take the time to like tweet at other people who aren't on it yet, saying, I'm a senator of constituent Ramos. She's doing an amazing job with this bill. We need your support for these reasons. Please sign on. Is another way to just something to know. And like before I make legislative meetings, I usually try to review this, so I'm not like suggesting suggesting somebody do something that they already have been working on for a long time. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about Twitter. So the biggest difference in Twitter for activism versus normal Twitter, and I guess like the nugget of wisdom I have to share to turn this into a whole class, is that, so essentially how normal people use Twitter, or like the general idea behind the platform, is you sign on, you say something clever or insightful about something that's happening in current events. Other people see how clever and insightful the thing you just said is. If they agree with you, maybe they retweet it and they like it. But the point is essentially, like most people use it to build a following for themselves, so they can have so they can say things and have people listen to them. What we're using Twitter for is very much just how the notifications work, is very much just to like get in touch with, is like thinking about what does the screen of the phone of the person in power look like, and how we are using and manipulating Twitter. So if you look at like my Twitter feed, sometimes you'll see, I retweet something about like school funding, and then I retweet something about like getting somebody out of jail, and then I retweet something about like, I'm retweeting about all sorts of different issues. A lot of them I don't know much about. And if you're wondering, like that's a weird feed that I have. Exactly, because my feed isn't for you who are like, isn't for the public who's just coming to see what I'm tweeting out. And when I'm tweeting, I'm not thinking necessarily about whoever's following me and what they're going to see. I'm retweeting because I see that this activist is trying to get in touch with somebody and has added that person who they're trying to get in touch with. And I know that by retweeting them, I put that notification in the person's Twitter one more time that day. So like, essentially, like every time somebody's handle gets retweeted and they get a notification, you can think of it as like a tap on the door. So like if you're just working at home and you hear one, are you going to go and check it? No, like it could have been anything. The core floorboards could have been creaking, like who knows what, right? Like if you hear one tap and then 20 minutes later you hear another tap, still nothing, right? But like if we get to a point where as an activist organizing community, one person is tweeting out and then like 10 or 20 other people are like tap, 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 this is important enough for me to take the 5 seconds to press the retweet button and send that new notification. Then the person in power is like, oh shit, I got 20, 30 notifications all on this one issue. That must be what my constituents want me to focus on. That's what I'm going to spend time responding to today. And so it's essentially like, it has a similar effect to calling and leaving a message on the answering machine, except for it takes less time and easier for people with social anxiety. And you get to like let the activist who you are retweeting know in real time that you are supporting, like that you're supporting them, that you've heard what they're said, and that you're trying to lift up the issue that they're bringing to light. So having said all that, like I'm almost at the point where I'm probably gonna make 2 Twitter accounts, like one that is my like activist account that I'm tweeting like my original content about health disparities, and then one that's just like, I'll to go on and like retweet a million people, just because I think my original tweets will be more highly rated in the algorithm if I'm not retweeting other people so much, if that makes sense. But like, again, like, so that's the change in mentality between like how normal people would use Twitter versus how activists are using Twitter is like, I don't really care if the general public think I have something witty or clever or insightful to say. I need a meeting with this person so we can like get shit done. So like, I want people to be like, I came into Twitter hoping my tweets would be so clever and insightful that people would just naturally retweet them. And I realized, oh no, nobody uses Twitter the way that I have been thinking of it. I should make classes, and thank you all for participating and coming to them. So none of you guys are first-time tweeters, but if you're just making your profile, I would say like for activism, I would keep it use your real name or a real sounding name, use a real photo or a photo that could be you, which is to say like, don't use a celebrity photo, don't use an emoji icon. Like you want to look like somebody who is actually is registered to vote. And that's not like a coded racial thing. I just mean like an actual human who could show up to a poll. Let's see. So let's get on Twitter and get started. So I think the first, I mean, I'm trying to think what the best thing is to suggest for you guys to do, because you are like moderate Twitter users. So if you are brand new Twitter users, I would have you learn like essentially send your first tweets and like practice writing out your first tweets by writing to your folks one way or another on the New York Health Act. So if you want to, maybe a good idea now is, I haven't seen, so for Kendall, like I don't, maybe take a couple of minutes to scroll through Kavanaugh's feed, but I haven't seen him come out to say like, oh, with the pandemic, for sure we need to pass the New York Health Act now. So maybe say like, thank you so much for your support. Generally, now's the time to call for it to be passed. Same thing with Ramos, like, thank you for your support generally on the New York Health Act. Like, as a constituent, please prioritize this as an issue for the next 2 months. And then sorry, Mandy, you know Felder, but so maybe like as much as like people who are within the New York Health Act community, like I know so there are 9 Democratic holdouts or 9 senators who could sign on who haven't signed on yet, and like I know all these people's names. I have these people's names memorized because I tweet at them so often, but very few other people are contacting them. Like very few people are contacting them through social media to speak with them about the New York Health Act. So even though I think like we all know like that Felder may be a lost cause, I would still like, there aren't people on Twitter making the point, why aren't you supporting this? So now is a great time to say like, hey Felder, Maimonides is being hit crazy hard, your district is being hit crazy hard, now is the time to pass the New York Health Act. And I can send through let me copy paste the graphic into the chat box of this. Oh, I don't know how to do that with sharing. Oh, it won't let me. Anyway, you can take a screenshot of it on or find it on the Campaign for New York Health. I'm gonna go, sorry, let me go back to screen share. So so I guess like the so I guess the rest of the time, so I'll teach you like the 2 concrete strategies, both for of like how we can flip the New York Health Act and like it will, and you can, and then you can deduce like how to use it for any other issue essentially. So kind of like the two strategies like one strategy, the first strategy is for if you never wanted to tweet yourself at all, like if that freaks you out and you only have 5 minutes a week, the like what to do it, or how you could help and participate via Twitter is by following the people who are on Twitter way more often than that, looking for the tweets where they've added people and retweeting those specifically. So I made let me see. Do you guys know how to use Twitter lists? Great. So I'm going to let me sign out, log out of Brooklyn Grows. So this is before I came up with Brooklyn Grows. This is like an account I made a long time ago. But why I did that is so, okay, so if you guys go to my profile page on Twitter, so you're looking at the same thing that I'm seeing now. Sorry, my an old coworker I hadn't heard of in a couple of years just texted me. Okay, so once you're at my thing, if you click here, the ellipsis, it's going to say view lists, and you're going to click there. Then if you click New York Health Activists, it brings you here, and then you can click this subscribe button. So what a Twitter list is it essentially makes a mini Twitter for you. So let's say like if you're following 100 people, when you log into Twitter, your scroll is everything those 100 people have been tweeting or retweeting. If let's say, well, like, yeah, I want to follow these 100 people generally, but right now I'm only interested in what these 10 people are tweeting about and saying. What you do is add them to a Twitter list here, and when you go and look at that list, it creates like a mini Twitter scroll of just the people who you put on that list. Does that make sense? So here I have the New York Health Activists. So it's just like the people in January, I searched the hashtag Pass New York Health and took the top 10 people who have been tweeting on that hashtag and made a list of us. So like an easy way to participate or like to kind of dip your toe in and keep going would be to subscribe to that list, and then when you have 15 minutes, scroll through, see what people are tweeting about, and then when you see that they're tweeting at like retweeting at people, then you can retweet with them to help boost that specific message. So let's see if there's I mean, okay, like I'm just reading through these. That's not so important. Here we go. Another, so in interest of time, because I didn't want to like just read and think through all of those what everyone was tweeting. Another way to like narrow your tweet to like look for the things you would want to retweet is look for the hashtag that your movement is using. So for New York Health, it's hashtag Past New York Health. If you click on the Past New York Health hashtag, it just shows you everything that has been hashtagged that way. And that can also like show you who's tweeting about it and who you may want to retweet to do a signal boost. Let's see. Wow, the Campaign for New York Health has been on it recently. Okay, so here we go. Tanya Cuevas wrote, Governor Cuomo, how is this okay? Kick us while we're down, shake my head, no Medicaid cuts, pass New York Health budget justice. So I'm gonna like and retweet that, because in doing so, Governor Cuomo just got a second thing saying you're an asshole for passing these Medicaid cuts. And everybody else who tweets this sends a notification to whoever runs Governor Cuomo's account that says we are opposed to the Medicaid cuts that you put through. The other, let's see. If I go back to Brooklyn Grows, so the other list, and I'll just do it one more time to how to subscribe to lists, is the ellipsis, then view lists. The other list to pay attention to are the New York Health Act holdouts. And so these are the 9 Democrats who are not yet in support of the New York Health Act. And so essentially so the first strategy of like, if you have only 5 minutes a week, is just log in, see who is already tweeting about it, and retweet as many things as possible to keep to knock on people's door. The second level, or to level up your activism, is figure out well, who in power needs to support this and hasn't yet, and asking them specifically on a medium where they're going to see it to give their support. So that's why I have the list of the New York Health Act holdouts. And when I'm bored / when I have time, I'll go through and read what they are tweeting about, and essentially troll them. So if they say New Yorkers, one of them, James Goofus, put out a bill this year that if you donate a kidney, you can get health insurance for life as a thank you for having donated your kidney to somebody in need. And it's maybe that the merits of that, whether or not that's a good idea in a different world, is debatable. But in this world, where he is the only vote we need to pass the law that would get healthcare to everybody, for him to instead be no, you have to give up a kidney to get healthcare, absolutely unacceptable. So it's stuff I'll see him tweeting stuff like that and then respond to it a bill to give health insurance to people who've donated kidneys is nothing when you could be signing on to a bill that gives health insurance to everybody. A lot of people thanking doctors and nurses these days, and I'll be hey, you know what doctors and nurses have been asking you to do? Or the best way to support us would be to pass the New York Health Act, because we've been the primary activists behind the issue this whole time. So let me take join me in honoring and recognizing so yeah, many essential workers have been away from their families right now. Senator Skoufis has launched Project Gratitude, an initiative where kids can make handmade thank you cards. They will be delivered to those on the front line. So we could say, this is an awesome initiative, Senator Skoufis. Those on the front line know everyone needs adequate health coverage. you can do your part to all right. Is it my best tweeting work? No. Is it the cleverest thing I've ever said? No. But is it the only thing that Senator Skoufis has seen in the last 2 or 3 days that puts the New York Health Act on his radar? Probably. So my, like, I guess my 2 mechanisms of trying to flip the vote is by following them and commenting on commenting on the things they say when it is relevant. And then the other is just looking for tweets that make a clear, like the clear point of log out Shifrapua, just logging back into my normal account. Shifrapua were the midwives in the Old Testament that refused to murder babies on the Pharaoh's order. Weird Bible trivia / why I picked that original handle. Okay, so then the, like, beyond commenting on them, then when I see a tweet that is like a particularly good argument for why we should pass the New York Health Act, I will retweet it at the holdouts by adding them, and then like say make the argument, like connecting the tweet I'm retweeting at them to why they should pass the New York Health Act. So let's see. This is like an issue I'm following on Twitter, Free Them All, is the, like, COVID is going crazy in the jails, and like guards aren't showing up to work, and just because you stole something doesn't mean you should die in a pandemic because we can't keep track of everyone. So like I'm mostly focused on reproductive justice work, but because I'm on Twitter and I see people who are tweeting about it, when I see them adding people, I'm able to like quickly boost their message. This a striking and puzzling pattern. So far, the hardest hit countries are predominantly wealthy, Western, Northern Hemisphere democracies. What's up with that? Well, white supremacy is a bitch, huh? And so I'm not seeing anything good here. But the sorry. So I haven't heard from any of you guys in a while. What are you thinking? Does this make sense? Are you following along? What questions do you have? How can I be helpful to you?
The lists are really cool. I'd never heard of the lists before, and so I'm excited to implement that just in my day-to-day Twitter chilling time. See, look, I just bumped. Sorry, it's late, but I will get to it. Can you explain how you are able to message us like that? Because like whenever, again, I'm still learning Twitter, and I'm still will pop up something and be like, oh, like you like message like, hi, retweet this.
Yeah. So when you click through to the tweet where like the main tweet is the biggest part, the hyperlink takes you straight to that tweet. So Lisa and Mandy, what Kendall is talking about is I have a retweet team, which is like if I tweet something that I don't want to leave to chance whether people are going to see and retweet it. They're people who have told me it's like DM me the tweet you want boosted and I'll boost it for you. So what I'll do is I like just copy paste and then go into messages and let's see, Lisa, what's your handle?
Birth Matters NYC.
Birth Matters. There we go. Next. So by just copy pasting the link to the tweet into her DM, and now Lisa can just click on it and it brings it back to that tweet and she can retweet it. So Kendall, for like National Advocates for Pregnant Women, maybe something to do is like when you guys have, like when you're doing contact cards, ask like, do you want to be a part of our Twitter team? And that way, like when like if you have an event to boost, you just send it all to their handles through their DMs for them to open up and retweet. The other thing I'll say, like, just because all of you are like on the more advanced activism-y side of things from my normal group, so I'll show you the other like kind of crazy thing that I do, which is definitely like some next level shit, but like it works, is I have like I've created an off Twitter list of people's handles based off of various categories. Yeah. Oh no, yeah. Sorry. So like one way that I stay super well informed about things that are happening at SUNY Downstate is that I search the alert. So let me the search Twitter on the search function on Twitter is like, it's not perfect, but it can be really useful for some things. So it will only show you tweets that have every word in the search bar. But for SUNY Downstate, that's great because we're the only SUNY Downstate. It's not like we're, Mercy Hospital and there's, 50 Mercy hospitals that are showing up. So almost once a day, I search SUNY Downstate and I just see who's tweeting what. And so when people are like, oh, my brother-in-law works at SUNY Downstate and XYZ thing is going on, then I copy and paste their handle and put it here, downstate disgruntled patients. So like anyone who's complained about getting care at SUNY Downstate on Twitter, I copy paste their handle here. Anyone I teach at SUNY Downstate was teaching my class, the first day of classes at SUNY Downstate tomorrow, and I pull their handle and have all of the faculty at SUNY Downstate. I have like health equity journalists, I have OBGYNs, I have one for doulas, I have one for L&D nurses. So let's say like let's say the nurses association that represents L&D nurses did something racist, which is would be par for the course for them, then I can at everybody who I know on Twitter who is an L&D nurse and say like, hey, look at, A1's doing this crazy thing, help me retweet at them. So Lisa, so mostly more for Kendall than other, but it works for everyone. Like, but Kendall, if you're seeing people are like, oh, that's a journalist that may be interested in something that National Advocates for Pregnant Women is doing, or like, oh, these are all the people who've interviewed Lynn Paltrow in the past and who may be willing to boost a tweet, like making off. I don't know of a way to organize that information inside of Twitter. I don't think there is a good way to do it, but just having it somewhere else lets you copy paste. So Lisa, if there's like strategic relationships within Queens and you see like someone's tweeting from your neighborhood and like maybe you don't need to get in touch with them now, but in the future, you like anytime you see anyone else who's a Ramos constituent, you can like save their handle somewhere so you are easily able to get in touch with all the other Ramos constituents. And then
I love it. That's great.
Yeah. What what else can I how else can I help you guys for the last 10 minutes? Because I think you all get the basic principles.
I would just echo what Kendall said. I really appreciate your showing us the lists because I was not familiar with that at all. I just haven't spent a lot of time kind of poking around all the different functionality in Twitter. So that's really wonderful. So thanks for showing us that. And your spreadsheet is great because I often am like trying to like rack my brain about, okay, who am I going to tag here? I can't remember. Then I have to like close out of the tweet and like compose it all over again.
Yeah.
So spreadsheet or some place to hold that information is very smart.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is there Mandy, I don't your thing went out. Did you have any other thoughts or questions or
Hello, my name is Leslie.
Leslie? Sorry.
I came on late because I was doing something else and I didn't want to interrupt. I'm very new to all this. I'm a former New Yorker. I just moved out of New York just about less than a year ago, and I think I've looked at Twitter maybe once or twice. I don't even have an account or anything, but I'm about to launch an educational initiative for the Black community nationwide and start an organization called Black Coalition for Safe Motherhood. And so I need to know how to network this way. And so I've gotten some ideas and I appreciate that, hearing some of the ideas. I'm a retired obstetrician and I can't even type the way everybody else is typing. So, you know, I'm grateful to just to see the screens and get some idea of how to network. And so thank you for doing this, Katie.
Of course. So I had said going forward, I'm hoping from like 2 to 2:30 to be like brand new how to use Twitter if you've never used it before, and 2:30 to 3 being like a mini health action where we're all retweeting the same types of things about whatever health justice issue is most pertinent for that week. So, which is to say, tune in next Tuesday at 2, and if you like just sometime between now and then make a profile, and that way for the first half hour, I can just answer any questions of like how to write a tweet, how to of the very basics of how things work. I'm trying to get my mom to come. I'm trying to get like lots of people who may not be comfortable with social media to demystify, make it easier. So the action part of it was much fuzzier today because a different, smaller group of people, but that's the hope going forward. So
Thank you.
Of course. Kendall, any questions from either of you before we hop off?
Nope, I'll tune in next Tuesday.
Great. Yeah, so then I will be in touch and I'll see you guys then.
Perfect. Thanks so much,
actually,
Kate.
Kendall, hang on one second, just for something on Kavanaugh. So great to speaking with you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Did you get the email with Mary Whitlock?
I did. Yeah, I did.
So I haven't heard back from her again, but hopefully she'll be at the organizing meeting tomorrow, and essentially I'll ask her to get in touch with you so she can be CC'd on like the future follow-up reminding don't forget about us emails.
Perfect. And do you have a Brooklyn Grows nope, I lost it. A calendar invite for that one?
The
Wednesday?
The organizing meeting?
Yeah.
I don't know how to use Google Calendars. maybe I should. Maybe that's one of the hiccups with getting people to remember when it is. No, I haven't set it out yet, but
I do love a good Google Calendar for sure. That is a big reason why I make anything sometimes as I look at it. And I'm like, oh, like something just told me that I have to go have something at 3. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So that's pretty good for me.
So I don't like, if you can't make it tomorrow, no worry. Like, that was essentially the only specific thing I had for you was let's try and loop Mary into it. And then I can also,
I can make it. I just need a link to the webinar itself. Where should I find that?
I think I sent out a update last Friday, and I'll just resend a reminder sometime between today and tomorrow for the organizer Zoom.
And that is different than the Wednesday at 2, correct?
Yeah, so Wednesdays at 2 is going to be volunteer onboarding. So that's for like people who've not been to, or like just came to a teach-in who I've not met before. So don't come to the onboarding because yeah, you all know that stuff. But the organizing meeting I'm hoping is to like just check in with folks who have like, where's everybody at as far as emailing the senators, for people who are staying on top of emailing the senators, but we're still not hearing back. What are our next steps as far as like organizing within the district to, you know, get more people in contact with the senator's office. So
and
that
can
was
you remind me one more time what time that's going to be at?
tomorrow at 3.
Tomorrow at 3. Perfect. And do you know about the digital organizing and pandemic that Groundswell's doing right now?
I'm seeing like I'm seeing a lot of great organizing things that I just don't have time to hop on the call. So I'm thinking like, oh, is that the same as the NISNA call and the New York Health Act call that I couldn't get on, or is a separate one? So another thing I wanted to bring up with organizers tomorrow is essentially like asking people to like be the ties between us and other, you know, like, can you stay on top of all of the Democratic Socialist stuff and send out updates when they have things? Can you stay on top of but it's the groundswell that year?
Groundswell. It's literally happening in 3 minutes.
Okay.
Right.
So I'll say goodbye to you now, but I guess thank you so much for staying on top of the Kavanaugh stuff, and the next steps is just to try and get in touch with other people in the district and cajole them to get in, you know, to actually call through on a script.
Yeah. Perfect. Sounds like a plan.
I'll talk to you later. Have a great afternoon. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Katie. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.